Ours is democracy in action. We have successfully nominated 2 candidates for presidential flag bearer for the general elections of the country in 2016-2021. And now it's my duty to avail them to you, especially the press. They will address you, and then from there, you help us to inform the world that ours are not fist fights, ours are gentlemen's duels. It's not a do or die. At the end of the exercise, FDC will be the winner. We have 2 tested leaders, and whoever emerges the winner, we rally behind him up to State House. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I now call upon Dr. Kizza Besigye to address the press.
One Uganda, one people. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Party President, General Mugisha Muntu, the leaders of FDC who are here in your various capacities, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and deputy chairperson, the gallant members of FDC, ladies and gentlemen, and the members of the press. As you have been informed, I was nominated in absentia, and that was because by the time I left the country for some external work outside Uganda, the days of nomination had not been appointed, and so I could not be here. And I would therefore like to use this opportunity to thank all those who, in one way or another, worked to see that I was nominated. Thank you very much. I got the sad and rather depressing news of the behavior of the police force at the time of our nomination, and have been in a lot of pain knowing that this criminal behavior still exists in our country, even when such important processes are going on. I condemn in the most strong terms the criminal acts of the Uganda police and implore them to for once make sure that what we pay them to do, what citizens of Uganda squeeze themselves to afford them, they use it in the interest of the citizens and not in the interest of the regime. I sympathize with all those who were traumatized, and especially the young man, Bale Godfrey, who was shot down here. I'm glad in having received the information that he's been discharged from hospital. Happily, this is not the first time that I and my brother, General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, are contesting for leadership in our party. This is actually the third time. And when we did so for the first time, those who doubt or who doubted what FDC is about said that the party is going to divide. This is the end of FDC. And certainly those who have never known democracy, who live in the forest of NRM, thought, aha, you see why we don't have democracy in NRM. You wait, you are going to see the end of those who say they practice democracy. As it turned out, we have contested all those times and our party is stronger. This is not going to be an exception. I have the highest regard and respect for General Muntu. I have worked with him. We've known each other and worked together for more than 30 years. And I can assure you, he's a fine gentleman and a good leader. And together, we have been involved in one struggle. The struggle to see that our country is not led by warlords, that our country is not controlled by the few who monopolize the control and use of guns, that the power in our country is truly exercised by the 35 million of us Ugandans. When we achieve that, the fundamental change would have dawned in our country. When power and control of this country is not in the hands of those who have guns, but in the citizens of our country. This is the mission that took us to war. This is the mission that we continue to fight for. And it's a mission I will never turn my back to until it is achieved. Because I heard there were some people saying, you know, this man had stepped down. Why is he coming back? I stepped down from the leadership of FDC party, and I have every respect for our leader of the party, General Mugisha Muntu. We have a party leader. I served my 2 terms and I stepped down. As you actually know, I cut short on my own accord each of those terms. In the first term, I served 4 years. In the second term, I served 3 years. And my service to the party ended there. But my service to the nation, to cause that fundamental change of ending the rule by warlords, can never end until it is. And quite obviously, there are, I think, some people who were, misguiding Ugandans, that I don't say what I mean. I'm not consistent. I have said I will not contest. Why am I coming back? And I'd like to challenge any Ugandan who has ever heard me say that I will never contest in an election. Full stop. My qualification has been that I will not contest in elections without reforms. Fortunately, the requirement for reforms in our country is not a desire of just myself. It is now a requirement that our party has signed to. On the Citizens Compact, our party, the FDC, is a signatory that we must have reforms. We made a solemn declaration as a party that we must have reforms. I hope none of us in the party will undermine that declaration, that we will have reforms. Because this was not just the work of our party, this was the work of citizens of Uganda in their various formations. The Uganda Citizens Compact on free and fair elections is wider than FDC. FDC simply happens to be one of its leading champions and certainly a signatory solemnly declaring that we must have reforms in this country. And that was advised by our history, that in this country, this great land, I have not known any country endowed as our country, and I've been to all the continents of this earth. We have the most endowed country, that this country has never had a peaceful change of leaders. That this great country has never had one election that is declared as free and fair. I'm glad that with your support, I took the electoral process of 2006 to the Supreme Court of Uganda on behalf of your party, our party. And all the 7 judges of the Supreme Court of Uganda, without any division, said the elections are not free or fair. And I'm indeed grateful to all the legal minds that have helped us in those struggles, the Honorable Abudu Katuntu and all the others. And the citizens of Uganda are determined that we end once and for all this cycle of violence where leaders are changed through bombs. That we end that and create institutions of our state that can mediate political processes and engender free and fair elections. So, my declaration that I will contest only if they are free, if their elections are free and fair, is not just my declaration. It's the declaration of our party. It's the declaration of the country through this citizens' compact. And our citizens, from my experience, are very determined to make sure that that change happens. They take the power that they ought to be exercising seriously, and we must help them to use it to make sure that what they want happens. So I hope that our country will appreciate that we, certainly me, has never called for boycott of elections. Never. Though there has been some distortion by some people saying the ones who are demanding for reforms are demanding for boycott. No. We have fought all our lives for elections. How can we fight for boycott? We fight to have the elections, but free and fair elections. So I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that I am not in the habit of turning around on my words. I am not in that habit. I mean what I say. And it's a good practice for people to mean what they say. That is, of course, not to say that people who say what they say may not find out tomorrow that what they said was a mistake. And it's good manners once you find out that you made a mistake to say, I made a mistake, and to apologize. Happily, I haven't found myself in that situation at all. Mr. Chairman, the Electoral Commission, allow me also to point out that the confusion that sometimes has been carried along about my candidature in the past should not carry on. I have been a candidate for president 3 times. And they have been 3 different times. I wouldn't want to go into what kind of times those were. 2001, 2006, and 2011. They have been very different times. I believe the most violent election in our history is of 2001. There is a report on the election violence because an inquiry was made by Parliament into that election. The report is still sitting in Parliament. Of course, 2006, as you know, I was nominated from Ruzira Maximum Security Prison. And as you know, in 2011, we decided that if all this drama goes on, we shall not even go back to the court. And we didn't. Because the court had done what it could do, declared elections not free and fair. That's all they could do, because the constitution is clear. After 2011 elections, we met in Zambia, all the candidates who had contested in that election, and we agreed the outcome of that election was not a correct outcome. The election was not credible. We jointly signed those declarations that we don't recognize the outcome of that election. that we actually want to recognize the government formed out of those elections, and that we are not going to court, the courts of Uganda. We are going to go to the court of the people. And that rather than counting the papers, they will now have to contend with counting the people. And as you know, since 2011, that struggle has been going on. But suffice to say, ladies and gentlemen, that if we want to have a decent country, we should have some logic. If you agree that elections are not free or fair, how can you talk about losers and winners? I would like to know. Maybe some people actually don't believe that the elections are not free and fair. Maybe. But if elections are not free or fair, you cannot talk about winners or losers. You've seen some countries where a dictator gets 98% of the vote. The following day, their citizens rise up, the whole country, and throw them out. So you ask, who were the 98% that were doing this? In 2011, as you know, General Museveni was in a queer position, swearing in Kololo, when the whole population was receiving gas from Entebbe. So I'd like us to know that, yes, I've contested 3 times in an unfree and an unfair election. And our struggle, as I have pointed out, is not just about election. Our struggle is to end control of our power by the warlords. That is our struggle. Elections or other means are simply means to an end. That is the end. Ending warlordism in this country. In other words, we are not just in an ordinary electoral contest, we are in a liberation struggle. That is what it is. We have a military dictatorship, unless some people think otherwise. And we are in a liberation struggle that can take twists and turns, use all kinds of tactics. And I believe maybe the well-thinking people of Uganda, the reason I think they still have some trust in former military leaders is because they know we have some training in tactics. So, to deal with the military dictatorship. And I would like to tell you that part of those tactics include camouflage. Camouflage is actually a deception. You deceive the enemy that you are not there when you are there. When you are there, you blend. And that is why, Mr. Museveni has been finding himself in trouble. 2006, he had thought I had disappeared, I had gone. Always see me come back, and then he starts saying, in action! So some of the tactics we use. So, but, this election or any other election under the military regime must be understood as part of a process of liberation. And that's how I view the next election. And that's why my candidature is going to underpin a struggle for reforms, to reform our state. We will have to underpin that struggle. Because, you know, our party always has a wonderful policy agenda. We have always had, we are the leaders in the policy agenda, this party. It has changed government policy under pressure, our policies, on many fronts. I am happy that this time around, we have senior citizens getting allowance thanks to our pressure. Because it was part of our manifesto, it was never part of the manifesto of General Museveni, that senior citizens are cared for. It had never been part of the manifesto of General Museveni that our students should get a student loan scheme. And of course, they have it in words, but our students are still languishing until the people who espoused that policy come into power and implement these good policies. So we have always had leading policies in how to revamp our economy, how to get our agriculture moving again, which has been killed by this regime. We have specific recommendations that we have put to the country. We have specific recommendations on how to deal with the social services, how to deal with the human being. You cannot change a country by just talking about roads without talking about the human resource you have in. That's the best resource you have in the country. We have always provided all these wonderful policies. But let me tell you, the citizens of Uganda, even when we provide these wonderful policies, just keep on saying, but how will these policies get the chance to be implemented when these people with their guns are still there? So they have doubt that we will have the chance to implement those good policies. And indeed, because they know the elections are not free and fair. And that's why this struggle for reforms is a citizen's struggle beyond just our political parties. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that those who are talking about you've contested once, you've contested twice, that, you know, they will put that to rest. Happily, and solicited, some of the regime agents have come out to volunteer information that actually we have always won those elections. So what we are looking for is actually not support. The support is already there. What we are looking is just for the avenue to channel it, to make sure that that support is translated into power. That is all that we are looking for. And that is the essence of my candidature. Of course, some people in that regard of saying you've stood many times have said, we criticize term limits. Why are we criticizing Museveni for standing so many times when I am doing the same? Can you imagine? People advancing such an argument. Term limits, we fight because people who occupy offices occupy positions of power, and they use that power to entrench themselves in those offices. And that's why our presidency must have term limits, even in the party. You can abuse the power within the office. Is being a candidate an office? You ask these people. And you see some who are even educated, you know, saying you have... So, ladies and gentlemen, We are going to be talking about some of these things to explain them. We have 2 months. We have 2 months of doing this. I actually must say that I am rather taken aback that we are having this process on the eve of the general elections. It's not the best way to do it. It's not the best way to do it. I think party processes should be sorted out much earlier than we are doing. And indeed, in fact, I had hoped that by stepping back early 3 years ago, that first of all, I was going to provide the opportunity of our new leader to be known countrywide rather than doing so on the eve of a general election. Because if I hadn't stepped down in 2009, in 2012, General Muntu, if he was elected at the end of last year, he would have only been in office for 6 months. I think that would be unfair to have a new party president on the eve of a general election. And that was part of the reason, as I told you here in this ground, why I thought it was prudent that I step back early. And gladly, we have now had a party president for nearly 3 years. So it's not like even now when we contest that no one has not had an opportunity to know our party president. But as I said, I think it would have been better to organize all these before. Unfortunately, we have it on the eve of a general election, which is why it must impose on us extraordinary discipline in this election. Because we are one Uganda, we should not do anything that undermines our unity, our strength in this election. Because at the end of the day, whoever becomes a candidate is going to need everyone. If it had been held earlier, it would have been much better. We have 2 months. Last time we campaigned for, was it 3 months? So I hope to see all our people all over the country, and we are going to have a vibrant campaign, I believe. We have new leaders of our party who have just been elected, and I must maybe use this opportunity to congratulate them. Leaders in every village. We have leaders in every parish and on up to the national level. And I must thank you, Mr. President, for having superintended over this process. Though, of course, again, some people who like to distort things have been trying to suggest that we have never done anything to build structures. You know, that there are those who want structures and there are those who don't like institutions. Can you imagine? How would we have been the leading opposition party in Uganda in one election without building capacity at the ground? There have been parties here for 60 years. FDC is the leading opposition. It could not happen without having structures now. Could not happen without the effort that we made. And as I have told you, in 2009, the reason I cut down my term limit was so that we go back and build the structures. Was there any other reason? Was there any other reason in 2009 why my term was cut short, except to build the structures? There was no other reason. And when the structures were built from below up to the top, I could not say for me my term has not ended. I subjected myself again to another election and my term went away. So we've been building structures, but I want you to know that we shall never have strong structures in a dictatorship. Doesn't mean we shouldn't keep on trying. But the reason dictatorship is anti-structures, because the dictatorship knows that structures will work to eliminate it. So the dictatorship will break our structures even when we build them. That's why we must break the dictatorship in order to ensure that we have strong and permanent structures. We must break the dictatorship. But we did, of course, everything we could to build the structures of this party. Whatever failures we had in doing so, I would have absolutely no responsibility in taking responsibility for it. I was the party leader for 7 years. Though, of course, that responsibility cannot also be escaped by my brother General Muntu, because he was the Secretary for Mobilization and Organization. the very office that is directly charged with building those structures. But as I have said, under any leadership, building structures under a dictatorship is difficult. And I won't, have any queries if even the structures we have built will be found wanting. It's difficult to build the structures under a dictatorship. But I congratulate all those who are occupying our structures. I hope they will not sell themselves to the regime, as some tend to do, especially since we have had these structures around the general election. Some would have come into the structures to elevate their price in order to sell themselves. That's the danger of having structures on the eve of general elections. But let's be our neighbor's keeper. Let's keep strengthening each other. FDC is going a long way, and we shall go the whole way with it. Thank you very much. God bless you. One Uganda, one people.
Thank you very much, candidate Dr. Kizza. I now call upon candidate General retired Gregory Muntu to address the gathering.
FDC oye! One Uganda, one people. Asante sana. The chairperson, the Electoral Commission and your team, the former Kizza Besigye, welcome back and welcome on board. Senior leaders of the party supporters, ladies and gentlemen. First, this is what we need to be in the country. Many times people focus on the removal of Museveni, and they do not focus on the thereafter. The two are twinned. Because after the removal of Museveni, which is going to happen, I am sure, as I am sure that day follows night, the real work starts. What kind of country do we want to see? What kind of future do we want to see? How do we influence our destinies? How do we influence that future? whatever we are going to harvest tomorrow, the seeds must be planted today. And that's what we've been doing here in FDC. And therefore, I would like to address the question of people who fear. FDC could break apart. 2009, when I decided to compete against Dr. Kizza, I remember we were in an office there, in the smaller committee, management committee. I remember one of the senior people almost fell off his chair. Because he said, Muntu, you have finished us. I said, how? And he said that the party is going to break apart. I said, if this party is going to break apart, let it. Because we must not tell the country a lie. We must do the things that we profess to believe in. Therefore, if we don't have the capability to manage competition, it means that we'll be telling the country a lie. We competed. I lost. I went immediately behind Dr. Besigye. Nobody even had to ask me. It didn't even take a day. I was here at headquarters working. Second time, it was longer, 90 days. A lot of excitement in the country. Again, there were fears. But fortunately, because we had done something before 2009 that had created a new experience, people now had hope. That's how the human mind works. The human mind normally refers to experiences they have gone through. If they are negative experiences, it creates fear. If you want to get rid of fear, you create a new experience, a new positive experience. We had done in 2009. 2010 was not as difficult. We went through, it was tense, but we managed to hold the party together. I lost, I again went behind Dr. Kizza. That time, 2012, we went into again, it was intense. We won, I won. My colleagues conceded defeat. A week after that, you know the turbulence that we went through. 2 years and a half. Dr. Besigye, that's the very reason why we are having this election now. Because we've had to go through turbulence. But by the grace of God, we have re-established stability. We have re-established cohesion in the party. If we didn't go through the instability that we had to go through for 2.5 years, certainly would have had this competition much, much earlier. I think people should give credit where it's due. This party could have fallen apart after 2012. It was one of the most testing for us who were in the party. 2 years and a half. Under attack, left, right, from external, from within. But we remained steady. We remained calm. We remained steadfast. We remained focused because we knew that without having a strong party, no individual is going to do anything. Strength comes from organization. That's what's been our focus. Organization, organization, organization. That's the way to go. And I can already see that there is consensus that that's the strategy that works. And we have worked it for 2.5 years. Amidst skepticism, we never allowed ourselves to be diverted from that. We concentrated on it day in, day out. Never responded to the very unfair attacks that were mounted against me as a party leader. Because I knew that cohesion was important. I knew that building organizational superiority was the most critical factor. I can tell you, Doctor, that whoever wins, even the possibility of success is going to depend on the power of the party. And that's why I concentrated on that. Because many people are saying, Muntu, you are not exposing yourself. You are not going all over the country to be known. And I kept on telling them, even if I was known, if there's no strong, well-organized party, even if I'm known in every home, there won't be any chance of taking power in this country. Whichever path, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, whichever path we choose to take, to oust this regime, whether it is through an electoral process, whether it is through civic actions, whatever path, we must be well organized. Organization. It's a winning strategy. I've tried to set it over a period of time. Eventually, in 2012, the colleagues gave me a chance, said, do what you say works. Amidst the turmoil that there was, at least the 2.5 years can show what comes out of the commitment and the focus we have had on the question of organization. There is evidence. And incidentally, Doctor, talking about me having been a secretary for organization. Actually, the chief mobilizer of the party is a party president. A party president gives direction. A party president gives a strategy. A party president is the one who leads the party to focus in whatever area you think is the best area to work. And therefore, when I got the opportunity as a party president and as a chief mobilizer, therefore, that's why we see what has happened in the 2.5 years. Nevertheless, we are going to set out 60 days. I'm going to be very brief because I gave my speech during the launch. I told the colleagues who are here that this is not about me. Neither is it about you, as Dr. Besigye. Absolutely not. And any Ugandan who thinks about me or Dr. Besigye, you are lost. We've got 19 women dying on a daily basis because of lack of health care. We've got 83% of the youth who are unemployed. We've got a state of frustration, deep hopelessness, and anger in this country. We are sitting on a time bomb. The question is, how do we resolve or how do we oust this regime so we can take our country back on track and resolve those issues? So to me, it's about strategy, really. A winning strategy. We have set a strategy. And the next 60 days, I believe Dr. Kizza is going to be selling a strategy which he thinks will work. I'm going to be selling a strategy which I believe will work. And then the delegates will have to make up their minds. Which direction do you want to go? Period. I believe the strategy I've been pushing for a long time works. And I'll be asking delegates to give it a chance. May God bless you all.